Welcome to A Voice from the Hills. I'm James Warner, co-founder of Silicon Hills Wealth Management here in Austin, Texas. Our guest on today's podcast is Susan McKenna. In March of this year, Susan was tapped to take over as interim CEO of eMoney Advisor. And in August, the board removed that interim designation. So we're so excited to have her on the pod in one of her first appearances as Chief Executive Officer of eMoney. eMoney is a leading provider of technology solutions. The firm serves over 100,000 financial professionals and is present in more than 5 million households. We're excited to learn a little bit more about Susan, gain some insight onto what that journey from interim CEO to permanent CEO looks like. And we're going to talk about eMoney, their expanding role in our industry, the vision of the company to provide financial peace of mind and how they're executing on that, and how we as financial advisors can leverage technology to bridge the gaps in financial education and access. So please join me in welcoming eMoney CEO, Susan McKenna.
James Warner is the founding partner of Silicon Hills Wealth Management and the host of A Voice from the Hills podcast. All opinions expressed by James, his co-host, and his guest are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Silicon Hills Wealth Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Clients of Silicon Hills Wealth Management may maintain positions in securities discussed in this podcast.
Good morning, Susan, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, James. Thank you so much for inviting me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, let me start by saying congratulations. I'm sure the last 6 months have been a bit of a whirlwind, haven't they?
It actually really has, and it's changed still yet since, officially getting the word a couple of weeks ago. So it's been exciting.
So let's take us back to March 2022. You're Chief Revenue Officer, which in and of itself is, there's a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
And you get the call, interim CEO. What are you thinking at that moment?
So I'll step back a little further. I was wearing two hats at the time, Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Revenue Officer. And then I was going to assume interim. So I was going to wear three hats for a little while and try that on and see how that felt. So I'm thinking, wow, great opportunity, huge passion for eMoney, for our vision, for our mission, and for the team. This is really just an incredible place to be. So excited, nervous, all of those good things that I think come with stepping into such big shoes.
And let's take a step back for our listeners a little bit who maybe aren't as familiar with your background. Can you take us through kind of your career and some of those milestones and how you got where you are today?
Sure. I feel very lucky. I've had a phenomenal career. I have always been based in technology. So different kinds of technology, but software and services for some very small angel invested companies all the way up to Deloitte Consulting and IBM. So as a technologist and a marketer, always wanted to have IBM as a chapter in my book, kind of a very exciting experience to have. But different things from data privacy to contract management to project management at one point in time. So kind of came up through the ranks there, different types of technology, always focused on marketing and sales and kind of alignment of those two business functions to create revenue.
And it seems like you had a knack for picking companies that would eventually be acquired.
I did have a couple of back-to-back experiences there, which is good. You kind of put a growth plan in place and say, this is our objective. When you're with private equity backed organizations, they typically begin with the end in mind, and you kind of know I have a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year horizon. And this is what we aspire to do. So we had some really good experiences. I did back to back anyway, being a part of that growth plan.
Yeah. So you really, if you're leading that marketing charge, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to get the exit. And then once you get it, it's like, what now?
From my experience anyway, that meant different things at different companies. In one case, I worked for a simulation company, and we were acquired by our largest competitor over in Sweden. And I was not going to relocate. to Sweden. So that was kind of like goodbye, good luck. And as I said, when Princeton Softtech was acquired by IBM, it was an exciting opportunity to be a part of such a technology behemoth. And it's funny, as an IBMer, as an ex-IBMer, everybody knows you by kind of whose regime were you a part of? Were you there, were you there in the Gerstner? Were you Palmisano? Were you Ginny Rometty? And if you overlapped, what did that mean? So for me, anyway, I knew I wasn't going to stay there the rest of my life. It was a great chapter, but I really enjoy being a part of smaller organizations where you can really help drive the growth and partner across the whole of the organization.
So let's go back to that period between March and August of this year. So
Yeah.
what was your mindset? Because we have a lot of executives that listen to the podcast, and I would imagine that when you get that interim CEO tag, I mean, you're evaluating the job and you're being evaluated, right? I mean, it would seem like. What's that like? What's your mindset, and how do you decide? How do you and the company decide, I guess, that the fit was right?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, in my case, because I was wearing three hats, I didn't have a lot of time to sit and kind of think about that interim role. Very focused on driving our growth on both the sales and marketing side and not wanting to skip a beat there. We came off of a couple of very, very strong years and wanting to ensure that we continued that kind of growth trajectory in service of our clients. That said, it was an interesting try before you buy. I was not one of those individuals who always aspired to be in that CEO chair. I really love marketing and sales. I have a great passion for that kind of alignment, but opportunity sometimes knocks. And so I was triangulating that with my passion around our mission and vision and this team. I have truly never worked with better people than the people I work with here at eMoney. And that is incredibly enticing. So I was looking at all of those things. And as you know, we are owned by Fidelity, and they went through their process to look for the next CEO. So I kind of kept my head down and focused on the day to day and my job, while at the same time doing what you said, which is just kind of thinking through, well, what if I could? There are things that you can't do as an interim, or maybe you shouldn't do, is a better way to put it.
Right.
Where if you officially have that role, you might be more willing to take that next step.
And I understand you're a Mel Robbins fan.
I
Is that
am.
right?
She's one of many that I follow and listen to, try and learn from.
And so for people who don't know, I guess it was the 5-second rule, and
Yeah,
stop saying you're fine. Stop saying you're fine is such
yeah,
a cool book. Uh,
yeah. It was. Agree.
and she has a couple things that I think are applicable here. She says, you know, start before you're ready. Uh, don't prepare, just begin. And it
You
kind of
know,
sounds like that's really almost what you had to do, huh?
it's funny. I used to tell folks when, mentoring individuals or people that I was lucky enough to work with, never take a job you're fully qualified for. You'll be bored within 6 months. And I think especially as you start out, or maybe 5 years into your career, it's really difficult to get to that next level, that next rung on the ladder. And sometimes people say, well, I'm not qualified. Good. If you're
I
fully
like that.
qualified, I think you'll be bored fairly quickly. So I agree with Mel's perspective, and I feel like I've kind of lived that throughout my career, because sometimes opportunities do present. You just have to dive in and hopefully be confident and surround yourself with good people and know that you can make an impact.
Yeah, if you're not suffering from imposter syndrome at least once a week, you're probably not in the right gig.
Fair.
So let's talk eMoney. So the vision for the company is financial peace of mind, and then the mission is helping people talk about money. I
Yes.
think that's really cool because those are two very human characteristics. And a lot of times we don't think about our software platforms and our services in that sort of frame. But the way I always think about it is that what the technology does is enables us. It sets the table for us to have these kind of discussions. And it's great that you guys have the end user in mind, that end conversation that, the tech is invaluable, but at the end of the day, it's just tech until it transcends into the actual conversations that we need to have. How much thought do y'all give into that when you're thinking about the roadmap? How many conversations do you have with all the different interested parties in those two overall missions or visions?
So I was fortunate enough to be a part of our reworking of our mission and vision several years ago. And we did that for several reasons. One, to simplify. We're trying to explain that we do a lot of things at eMoney, and it's quite hard to pare that down into something simple that our customers, that our employees can remember, which is how we landed with helping people talk about money and financial peace of mind for all. Both distinctive but incredibly important as we do think through the roadmap, and as I talk to, and many others across the organization talk to our clients all the time. So when you hear stories of our clients, when you hear about the impact on the end user, it absolutely and fundamentally must inform where you're taking the roadmap and where you're going. So for us, helping people talk about money, it's emotional. It's very difficult for many people to open up at whatever stage you are on your horizon. I'm sure you see this all the time. So it was pretty important for us that we just said, we're going to help you talk about money. We're going to use the technology as an enabler, as you correctly stated, to kind of broker that conversation, ask you the teasing questions, take a little of the intimidation out of it, make it easier for you to open up. And then, of course, a vision being far-reaching and aspirational, financial peace of mind for all. Absolutely. I like to think that what we do every day helps us get a little bit closer to that and a little bit closer to that. And our clients tell us that. So when you hear these stories of impact, it really resonates with me. It resonates with our associates and certainly with our other clients as well.
So how would you hope that an end client or a beneficiary of the software would describe eMoney?
Well, I would hope making their lives easier, right? Giving them the transparency they need to see everything from their plans to how that can change to different scenarios that they can model. There are end investors who want to be in that all the time, and there are others who don't want anything to do with it, right? They want their advisor to check in with them either daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever the cadence, and I hear it across the board, believe me. But use visuals and the technology to tell them they're safe, tell them they're secure, tell them they need to make changes or suggestions that they discuss with their advisor, but ultimately enhance their state of mind, their peace of mind.
Yeah, and it's helpful to wrap an organizational ribbon around all of that chaos. I think we had one client several years back that said, talking about money is really difficult, but you turned it from being impossible to really difficult.
Wow.
And she was talking about that in terms of, my husband and I couldn't really even agree on where we were because we didn't have that real-time access to data. We didn't have everything kind of sitting there for us. And so not only do we have to have this very difficult conversation, but we have to put together the pieces to have the conversation every time that we do it. And
it really does make it real for people, right?
Yeah, and you only have a certain amount of time to have those kind of conversations. I mean, that's not you don't have a lot of successful 2.5 hour meetings.
Yeah.
And when you spend the first hour trying to figure out and agree on just where you are, that where you're going to go is a little more difficult. So we always think of eMoney almost in a humanistic form around here. It's like, if it were another member of our staff, how would we talk about it? Right. They're available 24/7,
Yes.
mostly everything works okay. They never take a sick day. Well, occasionally the technology is not what we want it to be, and guess what? They always ask. You can always ask for help. And so it's kind of interesting when you think about, I think we throw that word technology out so much.
We do.
And our clients don't necessarily want more technology. They want more solutions. And if the technology gets us there, that's great. But and so when you talk about leveraging technology, I hear that all the time in our industry.
Yeah.
And I think we get it maybe from the empowerment of the advisor side more easily than we get it from, well, how do we transition that into empowering the client? And the upcoming summit that you guys are going to have, and I'll plug it for you because I'm going to be a panelist on
Yes, you are. I'm very appreciative of that.
On the Bridging the Gap segment, and we've been working really hard to get all our wonderful ideas into a shortened window.
We appreciate that.
For people who don't know, it's from October 17th through the 19th. There's a hashtag eMoney Summit 22 for those on social media who want to check it out. You can also go to emoneyadvisor.com and just search for Summit 2022. There's still time to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
And then I've always appreciated how much thought eMoney puts into training. I think that is such a huge thing, that the things y'all have done, even in the last 3 or 4 months, to organize the training and really give somebody a menu of opportunity to learn as much as they can, as fast as they're able to, and go back to it. I think that's one of the better programs in the industry. How much of your resources go towards innovation versus adoption and training?
So I appreciate your saying that. First of all, I feel incredibly proud of our service and support organizations at eMoney. And it's funny, I'm here almost 5 years with eMoney, and my first week with the organization, I spent time shadowing our tech support folks, just listening to calls. And what do advisors call about? How often is it the technology versus how often is it, and I'll tell you, it was more often, I have a client coming in an hour. And so it was usually this panic of the last minute, but always in the best interest of trying to serve our clients. And in the past 12 months, we have onboarded more than 20,000 new users. And the service and support, the training, the getting them up to speed, the driving the adoption. And we have this in different areas of the organization, because adoption equals retention. And when folks really understand how to help their clients more easily, it just trickles all the way down through the pipe. So it's actually a very large part of our organization. I know larger than some of our competitors. We just devote a lot of resources, not only to the initial onboarding, but to the ongoing support, because your book changes, right? Your clients change over time. We have clients who've been with us for years and years and years. Very, very grateful for that. But their climate has changed considerably. So we have to stay with them. We have to change with them, and they have different needs at different points in time. So it's a tremendous part of our organization that we rely very heavily on, and I think is a very strong competitive differentiator for eMoney.
And then the upcoming summit is, all about bridging the gap.
It is.
And there's lots of gaps going on. Let's talk about a couple. So we have societal gaps.
Yeah.
Probably one of those. You're probably a partial solution to one of those societal gaps, being one of the one of the few female CEOs in fintech. So that's progress. What other kind of societal gaps does eMoney as a platform and eMoney as a company of people and platform hope to be able to solve?
So I can answer this a couple different ways. So DEI, incredibly important to us. It's actually baked in as one of our core values as an organization, and something that we put a lot of energy around, but also in helping create kind of that next generation of planners. I think you're familiar with our university program. We
Yes.
partner with over 100 universities, and specifically around the country to help provide the technology to students so that they can begin their financial planning education and give them skills as they move on in their careers. So that has really expanded over time. We also partner with BLX, their internship program. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. We partnered with them back in June to really give an entry point to Black and Latinx professionals as they begin their careers. And we provide eMoney software to them. They have access to eMoney Premier, and they can earn their eMoney Fundamentals certification, which is similar to what we do also with the FPA, the virtual externship program that we have participated in the past couple of years. We've just seen a tremendous amount of diversity and opportunity for us to help folks who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to join this profession, help make it more diverse, and ultimately put more plans into the hands of more people.
Yeah, and of course, one of the promises of diversity is when you get all these different sets of opinions and different backgrounds, you also get different suggestions,
Absolutely.
Different ideas of where to take the roadmap. And I guess with 20,000 new users,
yeah,
and a more diversified set of new users, you're probably getting that roadmap tweaked in a direction that it might otherwise not. Is there any particular roadmap tweak you can point to and say, wow, this, but for diversity and inclusion, this wouldn't be happening?
You're setting me up for Summit. I love it. So, and over Summit next month, they'll have the opportunity to hear from Tom Sullivan. He is our new head of product. He's going to walk you through kind of his vision for eMoney and how that works hand in hand with our product roadmap moving forward. I think your comment is incredibly important about it. We take input from our clients in so many different ways, but not just clients, the constituents that I just referenced, right, through the internship and the externship programs, which undoubtedly influences the roadmap in a more diverse fashion to the point that you just made. So we crossed in early summer over 100,000 financial professionals that are currently using eMoney, and extremely excited and proud about that. And when I look back 5 years, I can see we've more than doubled, and obviously the diversity has only increased over the past years as well, not just in our client base, but in our associate base as well, which provides a greater diversity of thought and creativity to everything that we do.
Wow, that's a good answer. I think you should you should work with that one at the actual conference. That's really good. Let's talk about industry gaps. So, and not necessarily in the diversion and inclusion area, but just in what are we not utilizing technology for that we could be, that would help not only the operations of the financial planning firms that call eMoney home, but the 5 million households
Yeah.
that use eMoney.
So this may sound appropriate coming from someone in my role. To me, we're still not using planning enough, right? We have some clients who probably have 100% adoption across their firm. We have others who have much lower adoption, and they'll say to me, help us drive this more holistically across the organization so that we can help folks understand the impact that planning can have. And I think one of the things that's been a source of debate over the years is, what is a plan? Would love your answer. What do you say when someone says, what is a plan? What is a financial plan?
For us, you can only have a plan if you know what the desired outcome is, and if you agree, whoever's building that plan together, on what that desired outcome is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you move to the point where no plan ever goes according to plan. No financial plan, at least. In finance, it's a little bit different because we start with this idea of what the current state is and what the end point looks like. And then we have all these detours along the way. And our plan is that thing that reminds us where the road is when the detours get so much that we kind of forget where we're going. And it's kind of that hallmark. It's that thing we go back to. And when I think of planning, I think it's that concept of knowing what the plan is, reviewing it, and being able to do two things, Susan. I think we do fear-based planning very well in our business. We help our clients worry about not having enough to do this. We help them worry about being below the line. I think we really suck at dream-based planning. Because in every one of those Monte Carlo simulations, there's an upside and a downside. And I think a lot of our clients are ready and understand what they do when things go wrong. I think they're very ill-equipped to understand what they can do when things go right.
I love that definition between fear-based planning and dream-based planning. And I've been reading so much more about the concept of that post-pandemic, as people have really looked, and we've all seen the changes in the market, we've seen the changes in the economy, and some people want to retire at 55 because life's too short, and some people, to the point you just made, they don't even want to think about retirement. I just want to live my life. I want to have a set of guidelines here that kind of tell me I'm okay. But I think that propensity to think bigger is newer. And I think that's changing. So I think you're spot on. And it can be a very interesting perspective for yourself and other advisors to encourage that. Take the fear out of the old school, I'm going to retire at this, I need this much in the bank. The inevitable roadblocks or curves or obstacles along the way, or good things along the way, right? A child gets married, or a grandchild, if you're lucky enough to have that and want to be able to support that. But to me, I think so much about a plan as kind of a life opportunity, and not having that single point in time that I'm working towards, but more like, let me live my life with my family, with my ecosystem, to the best of my ability, and to be able to flex as those things inevitably happen. I do think that fear-based planning, and I love the way you put that, is common. I feel like it may be becoming part of the way we used to do things, and not the way we should be thinking about doing things moving forward. Because when we talk about more plans for more people, that transcends kind of the segment of the population that used to think that they were entitled to a plan. You needed to have this much in investable assets, and therefore you were welcome to sit down with an advisor. You've earned the right to have a plan. And we know now that that's anything from, I don't really have a plan yet, I just need budgeting help, right? At some point, hopefully with smart management and so forth, one day you'll have enough to be able to start that dream-based planning and look at those other elements that go into that. So I love the way you phrase that. And I think it's more of a 2022 forward approach to planning.
Well, and I think too, we put a lot of pressure on planning as if planning has to be this comprehensive monstrosity that
True.
gets us from cradle to grave with, the most, in the easiest journey possible. And the reality is, to go back to Mel Robbins' quote, sometimes it's just about starting.
Yeah.
It's just about, well, maybe I don't need a plan for life. Maybe I need a plan for this.
Right. And it's so intimidating. It's just so intimidating to so many, and they think it has to be that monstrosity. And it's just all of money is fear based. I mean, depending on how you grew up, there are just a lot of people that are still afraid to even have that discussion. It's no judgment, right? It's just this is something we all deal with every day. It's how do we budget? How do we get? There's a lot of consternation and a lot of stress involved with folks, for example, who have a lot of student loans. There's tons of studies on this recently that are showing, right? The more student debt you have, the higher that person's stress level, the higher their agita is when it comes to talking about anything money, because it's just kind of sitting out there on the side as something that may preclude them from buying a home, may preclude them from taking a dream vacation, all of those things. That's awful. And it's like, okay, well, how do we chunk this out? How do we create a plan that's going to allow you to feel better about that so that you can live your life and not have this sitting on your shoulder as this big onus for the rest of your life?
And I think what we see in our younger clientele is a higher propensity to plan than actually even, I think, and of course I'm age stereotyping here, which is always dangerous, but I think culturally there was a generation that says we get together and we do this arduous plan, and then we try to follow it, and then we get together again and we figure out, well, remind me again what we're supposed to be doing so we can get back to doing that. But with the younger generation, what I see is this continuous interaction with their plan at even micro moments. I mean, I've noticed my kids and their friends talking about the impact of something that I would consider to be fairly innocuous on their financial plan, or they wouldn't necessarily term it a financial plan, but that is what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's my ethos. This is my, this is my way. This is really important to me. This is why I'm doing it. And I really like that. I think that's something that we really need to lean into. And, I'm hopeful with more of the on-demand education and more of the on-demand financial literacy, embedded finance, those sort of things, that it gives those people the ability to, continuously kind of have their plan in mind. Because I think that the younger generation has a much better grasp of what it takes to monitor and operate within a plan than we give them credit for. Do you find that in your own world? You're dealing with 5 million more of them than I am. So
Yeah. I think it comes in all shapes and sizes. I think watching Gen X and and learning from our clients and their clients about where we see things, I think the tech savvy youth absolutely embrace the opportunity and certainly want to see things in that way. But they are also planners. Inherently, they're planners, and they've used technology to do that planning for years. So I do see that.
And then you talk about the student loans kind of hanging over someone's head as that impediment to really getting started on the right track, or even achieving that financial peace of mind, right? That's got to be a huge component against it. What are some of the other things that you notice?
Right? It doesn't have to be. I think, to our point about, well, if there's budgeting, there's a way to work it into your life and into your plan so that doesn't have to be your obstacle to happiness or your obstacle to dream. There are ways to do that. And I think, people do have that perspective that it's all or nothing. You have a plan. This is your only path to success. You deviate from that and you will not be successful. You will not be able to retire it at 63 or 65 or whatever that is. But I do think that that's changing.
Oh, I think so. Especially, I try to bring up COVID as little as humanly possible, but I do think, uh, I do think there was a mindset shift across lots of different
Yeah.
industries and people because of it. And for the first time, I heard multiple financial advisors saying, well, I talked to the client and they don't, this isn't the right financial thing for them to do. I know that. They know that. The software knows that. But, damn it, they want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm having a hard time telling them no.
Oh, they shouldn't.
And I said, well, why are you telling them no? I mean, eMoney has an entire, section of the program that's designed to tell them what happens when they say yes.
Right. Right.
And if you take them through that and they still want to say yes, well, then, send them a postcard. I mean, what are you going to do, right?
I love it. Send them a postcard.
But it is interesting that we put ourselves in as financial advisors. I mean, we want to always steer our clients toward what we feel is the best financial solution. I mean, that's the basically the ethos of being a fiduciary. But life isn't just about finance. And we've lost quite a few clients in years past, and I can't ever remember talking to one of them and having them say, boy, I'm sure glad we got 12% back in 1994. I'm holding on to that one at my deathbed. It'll be, wow, I'm sure glad we took that trip to Europe.
And it's about the relationships. I mean, everything you're describing is about people and relationships, not a static piece of paper, not a visual on your computer screen, not that plan that they have that ensures them every step along the way. It's more about life and living life and understanding your clients well enough to know when to bob and weave and say, look, you want to go take that trip around the world, you can do it. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's the scenarios. Here's what the next 5 to 10 years is going to hold. And I really think, as we look at our mission and vision, the people component is the only thing that matters there. It's the thing that transcends both of those. And it's kind of the heart of what we do at eMoney, because it's not about the tech. It's how we help our advisors and how our advisors help their clients. These are real stories from real people, and it resonates.
Yeah, it sure does. And then as you start to think about all the different constituencies, this was before your time at eMoney. I think we met in the summit in Austin, right? Was it 2018?
Right in your backyard.
Yeah, and but the first summit I ever went to was in San Diego, and I think it was 2012. I mean, it's a few years ago. I'm dating myself a little bit. And it was really interesting. They had a segment where all the advisors crammed into a room, and we had Post-it notes in front of us. And they actually asked the advisors to make recommendations about the software.
Nice.
Oh, Lord. And so I've never seen a group of financial advisors so excited to be able to tell everybody else what to do.
Oh, this is great.
And so they've got a group of about 4 or 5 engineers that are sitting up at the front, and they've got, the poor people who are running the conference are up there. And all of a sudden, here come all these people marching with all these Post-it notes and posting them on this big desk. And I went up there afterward and I said, now y'all are just going to throw all these in the trash, right? I mean, you can't really, I mean, look at these. I started picking them up, and it was like one idea canceled the other one out. And it was,
of course.
But as crazy as that little scenario was, the thing I walked away from it feeling was a real confidence in the people, because the people in that room were actually dedicated to making that thing happen. It was a very poor idea from in terms of the context. But I mean, they were just sitting there thinking, "Oh man, we can do this."
We can
And
do
I was like,
this, right?
that's the kind of attitude
Yeah,
I want to say.
I think your point about the ideas canceling each other out, we see that all the time, right? Because we get our requests in through user voice and a number of other platforms to be able to see what people want. And of course, you can't please everybody. But when you really start to see trends there, particularly among different segments of our population, you're like, we're onto something here. That's the only way to create a roadmap that's going to resonate with our clients and our clients' clients, is to continue to listen and continue to understand how life changes and how their use of our technology changes, and allow it to continue to be a facilitator and an enabler of those important conversations.
And then to take a step back from the serious world of finance, I understand you're a Philly sports fan.
Go Birds.
Oh man, you must be having the time of your life right now.
I had a thought yesterday. I better stop screaming or I'm not going to have a voice left.
I was wondering if it was a good idea for us to do this thing on Monday or not. I was like, oh man, I don't know, man. Maybe
depends
we
how the
should
game turned out, but yesterday was a good one.
Yeah, but I love the entire Philly experience is really cool. I love the people. Nobody can go from hate to love back to hate to love as fast as an OG Philly person. It's really pretty awesome.
Thank you. You are so right. And I was so hoping that all of Philly would do well by Doug Peterson and give him a big old standing ovation. And they did just that.
Yeah. Well, they were probably booing him by the second quarter, but that's okay.
You got it. I was going to say, once the game started, all bets were off.
And I think Philly fans are tough. And I think we as advisors tend to be really tough on our technology providers too, right? It's like, if our technology provider is not 17-0, we're looking to fire the coach.
Hey, it's the backbone of your business.
And so as kind of if you're the Doug Peterson of, that's probably a bad example. We should probably, no, Doug's won a Super Bowl. That's a pretty good example.
Right. He brought us the Super Bowl.
If you're the Doug Peterson of eMoney, what's your strategy? What feedback do you listen to? And what feedback do you say, well, you can't make everybody happy, but we're moving in the right direction?
Yeah. So I'll keep my football analogy for just a little while longer. He did bring us a Super Bowl, right? He made some unpopular moves. He made some very popular moves, and he surrounded himself with an amazing team. I already have that luxury. I have an amazing team here at eMoney that I am very, very privileged and grateful to work with them, and different tentacles reaching out to our clients, right? On the product side, which is a little bit different than on the sales side. And then the conversations that I have with myself, with our clients, a little bit different perspective across the organization. But I think together we take very seriously the role that we play in our clients' lives and in their clients' lives. And as I said, it's the backbone of your practice. And we know you rely on that technology to help facilitate the engagement that you have with your clients.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for joining us today and taking some time out ahead of the summit. I know it's a busy time for you. Just again, to remind everybody, the Bridging the Gap Virtual Summit is October 17th through the 19th. For the social media crew out there, you can hashtag eMoney Summit 22 and find out information on it. Go directly to the website, eMoneyAdvisor.com, Summit 2022. I'll be one of the panelists on the Bridging the Gap discussion. Hope to be able to interact with you, engage with you. And Susan, we all wish you the best of luck. And as you travel to your own eMoney Super Bowl of sorts, we hope that we know you have a great team to carry you forward, and we just wish you the best. Thanks for joining us.
James, thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
And that's a wrap for this episode of A Voice from the Hills podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And just a reminder that for access to this episode and all prior episodes, you can follow A Voice from the Hills podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcast content. We'd love it if you would subscribe to the pod, post a review, and give us a rating. If you'd like updates on future podcasts and all our other content, you can also follow A Voice from the Hills and Silicon Hills Wealth Management on social media. If you'd like to learn more about Silicon Hills Wealth and the services we offer, please check us out at our website at siliconhillswealth.com. And please know that your engagement and feedback is truly a gift. We can only do our best work when you are here to listen. Thank you.